Huh, that's weird. This boy on the missing person poster looks a lot like James. We'd better listen to the podcast to find out what's going on. Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor.
And I'm Rena Taylor.
And this is The Trainer's Guide.
Today's episode,
Holy Matrimony! Hey, everybody.
hello.
We are back for episode 45. Pretty amazing as we trudge along here.
I think we have 7 episodes left.
Who's counting?
I am.
Oh, my goodness.
I guess. Well, I can't believe that we've gotten this far.
Yes, the season, as if
I'm not
we
ready
need to
for it to
remind
end.
people, it's 52 episodes. Yeah. So we're looking ahead and thinking about what's next.
Looking ahead and looking back. Because we're looking into the past, with all these episodes.
Totally. Yes, we are. And as we look forward, it's voter registration day.
Yes.
We spent a bit of the weekend with Nerds Vote. Mm-hmm. If anyone in the U.S. is thinking about making sure that they are registered, finding out how to register to vote, you can go to nerdsvote.org and get all the information about how to register where you are. Also, I think looking into your local NPR station is a great way to find out about people in your district for your local elections, because it's not all about voting for the president. It's also about down ballot voting.
Yeah, they usually have a lot of information about the candidates. Yeah. So it's a good place to check if you have no idea how to start. Sometimes it can be really overwhelming. And if you live in a place like California, too, there's usually a lot of propositions on the ballot.
That's right.
Other types of things that you're voting for. So, it can be quite overwhelming. So sometimes turning to something like an NPR station or, a trusted source is a good place to begin. And then you can kind of start your research from there. But Nerds Vote is really great. It's a great resource to have. So
totally
definitely go there. Make sure you're registered. And, get excited.
I would say that the thing is, it's very exciting. Your voice can be heard. You can make a difference. Mm-hmm. And voting is a great way to do that. When you were little, Rena, you always came to vote with me every time you were in the curtained off area in New York. Yeah. And we had those little levers to flip down and then the giant lever to pull. That was, it's so exciting and it feels great to vote. So anyway, I encourage everybody at this point in election season, it can be incredibly tiring, but it's exciting to make a difference. So
one step at a time.
That's it. So get registered. Make sure you're registered.
Yeah.
And if you are too young to vote, if you're not 18 in the U.S., get your parents to register. Mm-hmm. And November 5th is the big day, so we'll talk about that then. But in the meantime...
I don't think they have voting in the Pokemon world. We haven't seen that yet. Ash hasn't been to the ballot box.
Have we seen...
but he's 10, so...
We haven't seen any mayors or anything, have we? Or
I don't think
maybe
so.
We've seen some people who are in charge of the town, but we don't know that they were elected officials.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think we have seen... Well, in that one episode, there was that old man who gave them the food.
That's right. And he was something.
He was, I think, the mayor.
But only because he'd been there forever and he owned the best shop.
And he had all the food.
The baked
stocked
goods.
up. Yeah. But I think they called him the mayor, maybe.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
But I think...
but he was an authority.
Somebody has to be... There usually has to be someone who gives the final word.
That's right.
And in our world, we vote for those people.
True.
And in this house, it's you.
Yes, I'm the elected leader.
That's it.
Every 4 years.
Whatever you say
switch.
goes.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like I like to think I'm in charge, but I'm not.
I think we have a true democracy. I think we work it out, you know?
We do definitely. We've perfected the art of compromise.
That's true. That's true.
Do you think we should go on to the episode now?
Well, you know what? I think that's a good idea.
All right, then let's do it.
Let's do it. Wow.
It works.
Solving things, making conclusions.
Yes.
Very exciting.
So here we are with our trio. They see a missing persons poster.
Yeah.
That has someone on it who greatly resembles a young James, complete with the same blue haircut.
I know.
So it's James hasn't changed much.
No, he hasn't. I think this is a great episode in the sense that it really just starts. Like normally there's a little bit of a ramp up, a lead up to kind of the excitement. But this one, the announcer goes, they're still on their journey. And then they just hit the poster and it just goes.
That's right.
Really just kicks up from there. So they're looking at the poster. They go, this looks like James. And then this limo comes up.
Right, a long
limo. Butler with a
megaphone?
Megaphone, yeah. And he yells at them, asking them if they've seen the boy. And they go, well, if it's James from Team Rocket, we do know him. And he was like, amazing, get in the limo. And they drive up to this mansion. And basically the rest unfolds. That's kind of the last we see of them.
So since we're talking about it, we all got paid by the line, essentially. So Ash didn't say much in this episode.
No.
But Misty, Brock, Jesse, James, they definitely did speak a lot.
It's their episode. I mean, this is like this episode was made for me because I love Jesse and James.
Oh, I know.
And this is basically just them
also
in the entire episode.
Peak performance by especially the two of them.
Yeah,
they were so good in this, and it's so funny that I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and so basically, Ash,
first
Misty,
of all,
Brock.
But wait, they're in the limo and they're all drinking cups of tea in actual china.
While they're
it's
driving
so
up.
Fun.
It is fun, and then while they're in the limo, Jesse, James, Meowth are also at the poster, and Jesse and Meowth see this, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, James!" I don't know if they immediately know that it's James, but I think they're like, oh, this kid also looks like you. We've got to go. We've got to investigate.
That I hadn't thought that through, but it's not clear.
And but James is sad.
They think, yes, we have to go. It's you. Let's go and claim your inheritance.
I think the inheritance comes when they get into the house. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. That basically is what happens right next. But they go to the house also, and we find out right then and there that James's parents have died.
They've passed away, and there are coffins there. Yes. And the butler Hopkins,
in the middle of
as we later find out,
living room.
Hopkins is saying, "Oh, they couldn't bear the sadness of James being gone."
Yeah.
So they've passed away from sadness,
broken hearts.
Yes, and James has to get here within 24 hours to claim the inheritance.
His fiance, otherwise, if he doesn't get married within the next 24 hours, his inheritance will go to charity.
Yeah.
And so Ash, Misty, Brock are upset for James that his parents are dead. And Jesse and Meowth, who are listening, they're up in the air vents.
Yes.
They are like, oh my gosh, James, you have to get your money. We've got to get you married. And James doesn't want to do it.
He really doesn't want to
do it. And basically Ash, Misty, Brock are like, we have got to help find James and let him know what's going on with his parents. But how are we going to find him? And just like clockwork, Jesse, James, Meowth fall from the roof of the building.
Right in front of them.
Classic. And basically we get into this whole thing of James like freaking out about not wanting to go, and he's like losing his memory, and it's all this. He says, crazy.
I have amnesia, essentially. Yes. I can only remember 3 things. I remember that I flunked out of Pokemon Tech. I joined a bicycle gang, which we know because we've seen this in past episodes. And also, he was wandering in the snow.
One scene before that.
Yeah, before joining the bike gang and flunking out of Pokemon Tech, he was wandering in the snow with his favorite Pokemon, Growly, and he falters and falls in front of a doorway.
They haven't had food for days. It's snowing and cold.
And he's looking up at this stained glass window above the door with these cherubs and lets out his last gasps and dies right there from the cold. And they all say, wait a minute, you're right here.
Well, Jesse and Meowth are crying. Ash and Brock are crying, and Brock is like, I can't believe James is gone. And Ash goes, I'll miss him so much. And Misty's the only one who's unfazed. And she's like, hello, you're right here. And he's like, oh, right.
Right. I can't, my amnesia. Meanwhile, he's just reenacted the whole Little Match Girl story by Hans Christian Andersen, where she is out in the cold trying to sell the last of her matches because she doesn't want to go back to her family without having sold them all. And she ends up freezing to death outside. That lesson teaches us that we shouldn't ignore those in need.
Very true.
So,
and same thing for this. James is in need as well, but a different kind of need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which we've come to find out later. But
he doesn't want to get married, and Jessie and Meowth go, nonsense. You're getting married.
Right.
We'll have a fake ceremony, whatever. You got to claim your inheritance. And Ash, Misty, and Brock are kind of like, hey, he can make his own decisions.
Right.
You can't force him to marry somebody he doesn't want to. And Jessie and Meowth are like, you don't know what you're talking about. Be quiet.
So,
we're doing this.
So they get in these costumes.
This is the best part.
Yes.
Truthfully, this is the best part. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just so much fun. So Jessie and Meowth, they lasso James so he can't escape. And then they put I was going to say a blindfold, but it's like a gag on his mouth.
Right, so he can't speak.
And then they get into these all black outfits.
Like puppeteering
with
outfits.
Veils as well.
Yeah, which...
to be invisible. So they're like, we're going to be invisible and we'll control James and make him do what we want him to do.
It is those traditional puppeteering costumes, the kuroko.
Yeah.
Where they are behind. They're using
stage hands in traditional kabuki theater, we found out.
Right.
So anybody who's like, oh my gosh, I can't think of any words today. But like if you're working backstage, you would wear these outfits.
Well, it's similarly used in The Lion King, for instance, where you have the people doing the big puppets, but they are invisible. Right. But here, these are more traditional costumes which are used, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I had no idea that was something, but it was really neat when we looked that up. So they are controlling James.
Yeah.
And they knock on the door, and what's his name?
Hodgkins.
Hopkins answers the door.
Something.
And he's like, Master, hello? And Jessie's like, oh, yes. I am James. I returned for my money. I mean, to see my parents.
I wanted her to say, "I just want the money, my honey."
Yeah,
for the fiance. So they come in and they are fooling everyone.
Well, yeah, and nobody knows. Hopkins doesn't see them, and they're so far so good. And they have come, and Jessie as James is waxing on about how he misses his parents. And then all of a sudden, they bust out of the coffins.
Because it was all a trick.
Yes.
Saying the motto.
Yeah, they say, prepare for trouble, make it double.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused.
So James's parents are back, and they are rocketeers in a sense.
Yeah, they do kind of give like Jessie and James vibes also.
Totally.
His parents, but they have darker hair. Like Jessie and James have brighter.
That's
like a brighter blue, brighter red.
Because they're old and they're fading.
Exactly. And they have mustaches.
They have a plan and they want to get James. They've tricked him to come back. They want him to get married to Jessibelle.
Jessibelle. Yeah. So they take James upstairs and they sit him down, and again, Meowth and Jessie are kind of next to him, being his voice, and we see this girl, his betrothed, is revealed, and she looks just like Jessie.
Exactly
but
like
with
her.
Curly hair.
Long, a nice do.
And she's Southern.
She is Southern, just like the mother.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I thought that was weird, too, because they're like, Jessibelle, and she goes, oh, hi, thank you, Mama, or Mother, or something, to James's mom.
Because she's already in the family.
I know, she's been adopted.
When you get married, you have to call the other parents Mother and Dad.
Can't wait for that.
I know. You know what? One of my favorite lines.
I've always wanted another
Hello,
mother,
mother, and mother.
Exactly.
Mother. One of my favorite lines is the dad says, "A man who can't settle down is like a bumblebee without a nose. He'll never sniff the daffodils of life."
So true.
Amazing.
Yeah, so James's parents are obsessed with this idea that James is basically a good-for-nothing guy, and the only way that he will become refined and like a true member of high society is if he gets married.
And learns all
and
the rules from Jessibelle.
Yeah, to Jessibelle, because she is the pinnacle of class.
That's right.
And so
she takes James down to the treasure room.
Well, even before that, they're talking, and Jessie and Meowth are speaking for James.
Right.
But then the three of them get into an argument, and at one point, Jessibelle's like, James, why are you talking to yourself?
That's right.
And Ash and Misty Brock are like,
they're right there. Nobody can see them.
They can see them. Yeah. It's so funny.
It's great.
It's so funny. Anyway, so she goes, let's go down to the
show
the cellar
the treasure.
to count your inheritance.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Jessie and Meowth are
puppeteering him down.
They drag James down.
And it turns out
a trap.
It's a dungeon kind of / gym area where Jessibelle can train James with this huge whip to get learn etiquette.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
And she pulls out her vile plume, which we learn is a flower Pokemon, which can cause allergic reactions.
Yeah,
and
I thought that was an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, ultimately, James is having a giant allergic reaction to Jessibelle.
Yeah, because his whole family.
Yeah, that's right. Because he's not this isn't his chosen lifestyle.
No, and even he's like, he kind of knows what they're up to.
Yeah.
He knows that his parents, that Jessibelle, are all trying to like trick him into this.
Right.
But he, doesn't really know how to handle the situation and can't, despite like trying to say, I don't want to do this. Nobody's listening to him.
I know, which is parents, really, it's Jessie so unfortunate.
Like nobody hears him, really.
This is not the way to live.
No.
And families shouldn't do this to their children.
Exactly. And even that, so Jessibelle is chasing James around the gym. And his parents are sitting there with tea, being like, oh, they're just like us, remember that?
Perfect couple.
And he's like, if you weren't such lousy parents, you wouldn't be making me marry Jessibelle, right? And so anyway, it's just kind of a sad thing. We really get a taste of James's past
and why
life.
He left, in a way.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Jessibelle has stun-spored everyone and has them swept out of the house. And
she's attacking James.
He's still in the house.
Yeah, and we hear a knocking, or a banging, I should say, from the dog house mansion that's basically bigger than a mall, as Brock says in the beginning. We hear a banging, and lo and behold, the doors are opened, and it's Growly, the Growlithe.
Yes.
Growly comes to the rescue to save James from the abusive Jessibelle.
Yeah, and then there's a flashback of Jessibelle.
Oh, yeah.
With this whole, when she was little and James was little, they have this flashback of her running after him. I'll teach you how to eat spaghetti.
Yeah.
I'll teach you how to run properly.
Because James says once they became betrothed, she wouldn't leave him alone.
She was following him everywhere.
And he just wanted to go to the beat of his own drum. He didn't want to do what everyone else wanted him to do.
So many rules. Yeah. That was his big thing against staying there.
Wouldn't do that. And so basically, she's the reason why he ran away all those years ago. And then, I guess, joined Pokemon Tech. So, and then, as we know later, the Bike Gang, et cetera, et cetera.
So oftentimes, when there are problems at home, people turn to evil.
Yeah.
And so...
But he went to school.
to learn it.
He went to school and then he joined the gang.
Yeah, so I know. The gang.
He's just had a lot of...
He needs support. Everyone needs support.
It's true.
And to be accepted for who you are.
Yeah. And so basically there's a whole battle. Growly and Pikachu burn...
Electric shock, really.
And the flame, I think,
that
too.
ends up... Yeah.
It burn...
Vileplume.
The Vileplume.
Yeah.
And so Vileplume is running into Jessibelle, and basically the two of them run away, and in doing so knock James's parents off this little bridge into a magic carp pond that they're feeding. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, she's the pinnacle of class.
She's too good for our son.
So they, they're just in love with her. And then basically James leaves.
He decides to leave. Well, Team Rocket, meaning Jessie and Meowth, have left.
They get
the
blasted off.
Yeah. And
at
then,
some point.
And they are dejectedly walking down the road. And James leaves in his cape.
Yeah, he dons a Ronin outfit.
Costume. Yeah,
which is like the Ronin are disgraced samurais, masterless samurais, it turns out. Samurais who have fallen from a high social position
which
to
is
a place outside the social caste.
Interesting that once again, this cartoon has shown us two traditional costumes in what they've chosen, which there's so much to learn from this.
I know. It's super interesting.
And also the hat and the cape keep off the elements. So perhaps this time, poor little James won't wither away in the snow.
Exactly. And he's got his Meowth hot air balloon too, so that kind of helps.
Yeah, somehow he jumps into that and goes off to meet Jessie.
Yes.
And Meowth pulls Jessie into the basket, and they kind of pledge to one another that they will continue with their double trouble.
Double trouble time?
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds good. And they shake hands and they're like crying and going off into the sunset. And of course, Meowth is like, wait for me.
Running behind.
I forgot Meowth again. Anyway, I mean, I think it's interesting. He's like, James is telling Growly Growly has to stay to protect the parents and look after the parents. And James is saying, the high society life wasn't for me. I preferred the low life, which is, he just wants his freedom. He doesn't want people to tell him what to do.
Right.
Because nobody listens to what he wants. I mean, I think that's the thing too, is like, it's not necessarily that he just hates rules, but these rules have been arbitrarily placed on him. And nobody is taking the time to find out what he wants.
Right.
And so I can understand why you would act out and run away when you feel like you're not being heard.
I know.
So,
well, we don't really learn. Well, I should say the episode ends with our trio being chased by Jessibelle as she's trying to teach them, wait, you're not running properly.
Yeah, help me find James.
All of that. Yeah. So it just kind of ends that way. So,
and the announcer goes, has Ash learned anything valuable? We'll see. Which I think is funny, because the reason why we were doing this podcast is because we thought, there's so many life lessons to be learned and things like that. But it really, even in the writing, it acknowledges that there are lessons to learn. You know what I mean? True. Like I didn't think it was so, not necessarily self-aware, but I didn't realize that it talked about the fact that Ash is learning lessons like this.
Well,
like I thought the announcer sounded like he was talking directly to us. Because I was like, I don't know if he has.
We don't know. And in this episode, I think we all can resolve to do better, to help others, to acknowledge what other people need or want in life. But we didn't learn that we should from, it was inferred
I don't think
in this episode.
Ash learned it, but we did.
We did.
Like, because Ash, Misty, and Brock aren't really in it. I mean, they help James at the end defeat Jessibelle and escape in that sense, but they aren't really part of it.
But they do stand up for him to say, look, he shouldn't have to do this. And so perhaps they are, at least from the sidelines, acknowledging that.
Yeah, it's just definitely more, we see more of Jessie and James's development through the episode. Ash, Misty, Brock are kind of on the side. They see things that maybe other people can't, and they say things too, like he shouldn't have to marry other people or whoever he wants, or, all this kind of stuff. But they mainly are just commenting about how nobody can see the fake, invisible Jessie and Meowth.
Right.
That's basically all they say.
Brilliant plot twist there.
So good.
And also, I think I'm disappointed there was no food at the house. It could have been a great feast.
And Jessie and James never get any food, so this would have been the perfect time. I thought that Jessie was going to fake being Jessibelle.
I see.
I thought something was going to happen where she would be like, don't worry, James, I'll step in and like pretend to marry you.
Right. Well,
So
they
they
did
could
say,
get
let's
it.
do a fake wedding and we'll run off with the money. But she could have stepped in because it was essentially Jessie.
Yeah. I thought she was going to have to pretend to be Jessibelle.
Yeah, there's a lot of deeper connotations there with,
That's true.
I don't know. But so ultimately, Jessie is the perfect companion for James in many,
And
many
she doesn't
ways.
really ask of anything from James. I mean, she and Meowth for sure were not listening and a little bit blinded by the idea of this huge inheritance. So they stopped listening to James. But I think that they're all, in a sense, motivated by the same thing. You know,
True.
they don't want to be tied down by anything.
Yes, that's right.
But they would love some cash.
This rogue way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, these vagabonds
I know,
of
exactly.
evil.
And of truth and love.
Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right.
So, peace and love. No, truth and love.
Truth and love.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I guess this is a good time for the Poke Wrap Up.
Where we hear from you, the Pokemon community.
We asked you to send in your Pokemon stories, memories, and inspirations.
And here is one of this week's.
Hi, Veronica and Rena. My name's Michael, and I'm from Spokane, Washington. First of all, thank you so much for this podcast. I have been an avid listener since the first episode. I first heard about it when you were both visiting Spokane for our Comic-Con in 2023, and you mentioned the podcast as a project you were working on. You both sounded so excited about it, I had to listen right away when it was released later that year. Even though I've rewatched the original season many times over the years, it has been amazing reliving each episode through both of your unique perspectives. My love for Pokemon first started in elementary school with the cards, video games, and the anime. I remember sitting on the bus with my friends, trading cards to and from school, and eagerly awaiting for the new episode each week to premiere and see what new adventures Ash and Pikachu would be up to. I truly think the amazing energy and talent you and the whole cast put into the show is what brought it to life and led to Pokemon becoming so popular originally in the US, and I really thank you so much for that. I continue to play games and collect Pokemon cards to this day. It was a pleasure seeing you both talk on your panel at Comic-Con last year. I hope you come back to the Pacific Northwest again soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your stories with us. And we hope to see you on the road. And we'd like to hear from all of you.
Email us a short recording or write to us at trainersguidepod@gmail.com.
And try to keep it short, maybe 30 seconds or so, because we don't want to have to edit.
Oh, and please include your first name and where you're from.
Well, that about wraps up today's episode of The Trainer's Guide. And, as they say, to be continued. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey that is The Trainer's Guide.
As you know, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening now.
And if you subscribe, comment, and rate the podcast, it helps others find the show and keeps us on the air.
Thank you so much in advance for your generosity and all of your amazing support.
Trainer's Guide is a production of Boom Integrated.
We are co-executive producing this along with
the amazing Adrian Glover
and the incomparable Robin Lai. I'm your host, Veronica Taylor.
And I'm your host, Rena Taylor.
And this has been The Trainer's Guide. We'll see you out there on the road.